Oh yeah, sexy biscuits. Nice.
Long goes 1975. A using girls on the rise. Reviewing games late at night and sometimes friends used to bug. Long goes 1975.
Hey YouTube, Long Boys Post 1975. Welcome to the Wednesday vlog. Now this really may have seemed like it's come out of, left field even by my standards. You've read the title, which is, my nostalgic memories on the first time I saw the original Star Wars Trilogy. I had so much fun last week talking, I always talk nostalgia to some degree, but I had so much fun talking about, taping stuff off the TV last week. And one of the people mentioned the first time, I forget the name, I do apologise, they remember taping Star Wars off the TV on Christmas Day, off ITV in fact. And it's funny because I was talking about this to some mates last night, which is, if you take anything that's really, really big and popular, and as strong now as it ever was in gaining new fans and things like that, groundbreaking landmark films, like particularly like Star Wars, then when you ask the question across different age groups or age divides or whatever you call it, it's always, at least to me, it's always amazingly interesting to hear about the first time someone saw something that means so much to so many people, was so successful, but has been around for so long. I mean, and it's weird, you could say that I'm of the generation, of the original trilogy, but I did not see the original Star Wars in the cinema. I mean, I absolutely would love to. I mean, if I did, would that make it my favourite movie of all time and not Back to the Future? Because I've talked about it before, that Back to the Future, left such a lasting impression on me from day one. From when I saw it in the cinema, that it just immediately became my favourite movie of all time. I mean, maybe not, because obviously it isn't Star Wars. I love it, but it's still, to me, not as good as Back to the Future. Sacrilege! And also, the other reason I wanted to talk about this, while he slaps his leg there, is I was watching episode 7 the other day. Not a fan of that movie at all. I own it because I'm a completionist and I do like special features and documentaries. But I don't understand why it was so well received. Yes, I understand that taste is subjective, but to me, if you take aside the wooden acting and the bad dialogue, Revenge of the Sith is a far better movie. I'll even say that, and I know that people don't like it and Jar Jar and all that, I say that, Phantom Menace is a more entertaining and original movie. I think my problem with it is, those two movies, whether you think they're hokey or not, or don't like what Lucas did with the prequels, he tried brand new stories, it was created from scratch, whereas I honestly feel that Shit-Episode 7 is basically a poor man's rehash of the original Star Wars. But anyway, it got me thinking when I was watching it, because it immediately makes me compare it to Star Wars, about, my nostalgic memories of the first time I saw each film in the original trilogy. Now, I was a kid, so 1977, obviously, I was 2. Couldn't have seen Star Wars at the movie theatres, or in the cinema, I should say. But because of, when I was young, it was, it gained all this momentum, all these toys and things like that. I think I probably had the toys before I saw the movie, only ever so slightly. But the first time I saw Star Wars was on the TV. It was, it was on the TV, and it was it was a Christmas Day. I can remember that. The first time Star Wars was shown on TV was Christmas Day 1981 or 82, and it was on ITV. The original trilogy all premiered on ITV, so fair play ITV, because fuck you BBC. Even back then, taxpayers or license fee payers, you should have got there first. But anyway, yeah, so the first time I saw Star Wars was, on the TV. Now, you would think that that would diminish its impact or its effect. I mean, obviously it wouldn't be anywhere near as good as, seeing it in the cinema. But since it was, it was fresh in my mind, this amazing movie that I hadn't seen, and you wouldn't have been able, because this is what would have made it key for me, knowing of it, seeing the toys and things like that, and having not actually seen the movie because I wasn't around when it was in the cinema, and you wouldn't have been able to rent it. then. So the only place you would have got to see it would have been on TV if you were of my age group. So that made it in itself an absolutely massive thing. I knew bits of it, seen little clips here on the TV and stuff like that. When we used to go on holiday, I remember this. At Blue Anchor caravan sites, there was a kid and 2 caravans down who had one of those. Do you remember those old little camera windy viewer things? I don't mean like the ones where you click and it moves around once. Sorry, sirloin steak for breakfast of kings. But like you would have like, I don't know, literally a couple of minutes of footage and you wouldn't get sound and you'd have to crank it and wind it like that. And I remember he kept you know, showing us what he had, and it was absolutely amazing, because it was the bit where Luke swings across the bridge. Fuck me, airport, you're really bloody noisy. Swings across the bridge with Leia. You could even wind it backwards and it would go back, and I just kept watching that again and again and again. And you know, from people who'd seen the movie telling me stuff about that, by the time it aired on TV, I was super hyped. So I reckon I must have been about, since I was probably young enough to understand it, 4, hell, maybe even 5. But we probably would have had our Betamax at that point, and I do remember that my dad taped it, and yeah, like, I'd never seen anything like it. I know it's a cliche, but the scroll of the story going up, and even at that age, probably so much of it went over my head, and even now when I watch it again, you know, I still discover new things, which is great when you love a movie that much and it has such an impact. But yeah, like the Star Destroyer going overhead, and I think also what attaches such a strong nostalgic memory to it was the fact that it was on Christmas Day. Everyone loves Christmas Day when they're a kid. It's such an important day, and so you're getting presents and shit as well. Oh, you're probably getting Star Wars presents, and then this movie you've never even seen, but you know so much about it, have so much invested and seen it for the first time. Genuinely so excited when you saw it in the TV guide, TV Times, and you circled it. It just would have set everything up brilliant. And I do remember, I just remember being absolutely blown away, and I do remember watching it again and again with both my brothers. I think we must have pissed our parents off royally. Well, I know we did. They didn't get command of that TV again for, you know, that entire Christmas. We just watched it again and again and again and again and again. I think even then that my dad probably did the trick where you stop it and then restart it so you wouldn't get the commercials and stuff. But yeah, that is the first time I saw it at home, but it was still near enough, you know, it's launched to some degree that momentum was carrying forward. And as I said, the toys and things like that, it blew me away. I mean, I'm sure, as I said, I would love to have seen it in the theatre, but that was the first time I saw Star Wars. Now, obviously in 1980 I was 5. I think for whatever reason, I'm not sure, well no, I know what it was. It wasn't that my parents were protecting me from it, because that was a U or G certificate, wasn't it? But it was, I don't know, I think they were fans of taking 2 5-year-olds and a 6-year-old to the cinema, maybe because maybe we wouldn't be quiet and stuff like that. So, you know, I certainly didn't go to the cinema, you know, in 1980. We didn't need to though, but we'll get to that later on. So I was desperate, I was absolutely desperate to see Empire Strikes Back. Again, comics, things like that. I remember there's a UK Star Wars comic, little clips, tidbits here and there, Star Wars annuals, books with it, you know, bits in here and there, you know, the news reporting it and things like that, and getting more and more and more toys. That was just, again, it was, but I knew that there was something different in it, and I knew, I think I probably knew the spoiler at this point, but how, I still had to see it, and I need to see more of this. I need to see more of this amazing, wonderful, you know, universe. Obviously you couldn't buy these tapes at this point, and I think Empire didn't, no, I know for a fact that Empire didn't air on British TV until 1987 Christmas Day. I do know this, it aired the same day that Back to the Future aired on UK TV for the first time. They were on opposite channels, so I think we take Back to the Future in this house and made my poor mum drive down the road to my auntie's house so she could record Empire for us, because we couldn't miss either one. But no, the first time I saw Empire, again, I was desperate to see it. Dare I say this, I was a far bigger Star Wars fan than both my brothers. And sorry, you know, Jason, if you're watching, just my memory. I do remember one year pulling out Darth Vader, or as I used to say when I was a kid, Dark Vader, from my Christmas stocking, and he was all rolled up like that. You know, the bubble was still fine with an elastic band stuck around him so he would fit in my stocking. I do remember shitting my pants. Don't know if that was the year that Empire was on. No, that was way later. No, that was the year I saw Empire, but this is what blew my mind about it. And do you remember back in the day with your local corner shop or your local post office, in my case, we're talking before off licenses here, would carry, because it was a new big thing, and they would carry videos. They wouldn't have loads of them. They'd have possibly about 30 titles VHS, 30 titles Betamax, but they would only have one of each title. And I remember one day going up into the back of the Felton post office, because that's where you could get sweets, and I always used to get cola cubes. Who remembers cola cubes? Can you still buy cola cubes? You used to go, can I have a quarter of cola cubes? And the lady would get the jar, pour it into scales, wouldn't she? And then pour it into your bag, and then you go to the front counter, and she'd write on it quarter, and then you'd pay for it, but never mind. But yeah, they had all these videos. I remember it was such a big deal when they first popped up, and I was just like, because we didn't go downtown then. Our parents would very rarely take us downtown, you know, these days. So this was probably a couple of years after, no, a year or so after Empire, well, on rental, because there would have been rental at that point. Again, don't quote me. Sorry, no, there was a rental because it was in here, but this would have been a couple of years after it came out in the cinema, I'm saying, sorry. I'll get there in a minute. It's the excitement of talking about all these nostalgic things. So I remember walking up the back of this shop and ordering my colour tube and just going, holy shit, they got tapes, they got tapes, they got tapes. And it was frustrating because they'd have the cases on it, and you wouldn't know if a tape was gone until you took it to the counter and they'd have to open it, and there would be a card in there with the person who had rented it. But we made, and she didn't want to, she, you know, sorry, that steak's killing me. She didn't want to join it. She probably thought, oh, I was just going to end up spending more money on these things that, you know, that this movies will make kids. Isn't there enough on TV? Haven't they got enough tapes? But we made her join this video store. All right, granted, the post office was just down the road at the time. And then I remember just going with her every time she went to the post office. So, can I come too, Mummy? Can I come too? Christ, it's a wonder my teeth didn't fall out. I had so many cola cubes. And rhubarb and custards. Who remember those bad boys? And yeah, so I could constantly go in because I had to see this movie, and I only had one copy. Kept popping it open. I just started doing it in the end, and it's like, God, it's gone, it's gone, it's gone. And then one time it was finally there because the tape was in it. It was an old, you know, an innocent time back then. People wouldn't steal. I certainly wouldn't steal from the local post office. Went up to the counter. My mum rented it. Came home, told my brothers, "We fucking hell, we got Empire Strikes Back." Brilliant. Brilliant. I don't think she's ever seen us so quiet in our lives at that point, because they obviously, you know, I may have been a bigger fan, but really, really wanted to see it as well. Again, did it diminish the fact that I didn't see it in a cinema? No, because I was such an impression was made from the first one. I was so hell-bent on seeing it, and waited weeks and weeks and weeks after finding out the good news that it was in, you know, my local post office. It started doing tapes, so we could rent and that, for our Betamax as well. Yeah, we were cool. We had a Betamax and not a VHS. It was such an effort. Again, all these things, you know, on demand nowadays kind of strips this away from you. This level of anticipation that just builds into outright crazy excitement. So when we saw it for the first time, it blew me away. Like the Walkers, I just couldn't get my head around. Like, oh, holy shit! Going into the spoilers. Should I say that? Of course not at this point. Going into the space slug, stuff like that. You know, the revelation that Luke was Vader's son. I never could understand the bit in the tree as a kid. I do remember that. I could never understand the bit in the tree. You know, when Luke chops Vader's head off and then his head is in the helmet. I do know that confused me as a 6-year-old or whatever. I do remember being absolutely blown away by the bit when they froze Han Solo and Carbonite, because it was, as a kid, trying to wrap your head around that, which is, you froze him and he's still alive. I can't compute. That's so fucking cool. And obviously I had Slave 1, and I had the Carbonite Han Solo figure, the hollow Carbonite that you could stick in Slave 1. Closest you got to getting a figure with a Star Wars toy back then, because they bundled action figures with them now, but they never used to. Bastards. Action Force did, or G.I. Joe, they used to, but never Star Wars. But yeah, like the whole movie just utterly blew me away. And then this is where it gets interesting, because both these times I had to wait to see those movies from their, you know, cinematic release. And then I remember, like, the hype. I knew about Jedi coming up, I knew about it, you know, and everything like that. And you got to remember, movies stayed in the theatres far longer back then. And I do remember we were on holiday again at Blue Anchor Caravan Park, and we were talking to this kid who'd just seen it, and he was explaining it to us. But the great thing about when you're a kid, so what was I, 8? in 1983. The great thing about when you're a kid is, because imagination is different between everyone else, people can spoil a movie for you then to some degree. And it wouldn't spoil it because they could explain it to you, but you had no idea of how it would look. You know, you've seen the other movies, but it doesn't matter because it's Star Wars. Everything, you know, chopped and changed from movie to movie. And so, you know, like, told me what happened and stuff like this. And some of it was just like, what? He kills Vader? I don't believe you, bollocks. And I remember I had the book from school before I saw it. Remember you used to get the book clubs where you're allowed to order a book? And then you'd go back, send your money away, then a big box would come to school and you'd get your books. I remember having the book, I never read it, too much text for me as an 8-year-old, boring, just looked at the pictures. I remember having the Marvel Comics adaptation, and again, even though you know what's happening more so from that comic, it didn't ruin the movie for you. But yeah, so as I said, this kid told us about it and we were really, really super excited, but we couldn't go and see it just yet. And then one day my old man came back from work, and some guy in the arch, because his garage was in his motor garage was in a railway arch, and there was a whole bunch of railway arches. EastEnders stole that idea, and two of them belonged to one person, my dad and his business partner. Two belonged to someone else, and they had like a spray shop or something. Sorry, it wouldn't be a Wednesday vlog if it wasn't for Windy Pops. And don't ask me how this person got it, and don't ask me where you would get it back then, particularly like no internet, you know. How someone got a Betamax copy of Return of the Jedi, allegedly, you know, off the back of a lorry. That, granted, this is my memory, you know, kicking in, but as I do remember as a kid, it was a perfect copy. Yeah, my dad came home and he said, look, I got this for a week. You kids like this Star Wars thing, don't you? And we were just like, holy shit, we get to watch Star Wars in our house before we see it in the cinema. We don't even need to go to the cinema. And we must have watched it 3 or 4 times in the first 2 days, seriously. And then every day afterwards, you know, like the last day I think we watched it about 4 times again, because we knew that this copy was going back to the person in the garage arch next to my dad's garage arch. And it was absolutely fantastic. I mean, that was utterly fantastic. It utterly blew me away. I mean, I was most impressed, and just like, you know, impression left on Ickle Dave by the Sarlacc pit, which I still think looks better without the weird beaky thing. The Rancor absolutely blew me away. I love the Ewoks. I've always never understood, when people slate the Ewoks. I thought the fact that the Ewoks were supposed to represent that how any inferior force in sheer number can outweigh far more technologically advanced, you know, enemy. But I loved them. I thought it was absolutely fantastic. I love the fact that you see Luke's robot hand get shot. It's little things that stick in you as a kid. Not so much a fan of Boba Fett going down the hole. The fight at the end with Luke, that was absolutely fantastic. Really couldn't give a shit that Leia was Luke's twin. You know, the speeder bike scene just blew me away. Again, more toys, got the, you know, the speeder bikes and that shit for Christmas. But yeah, this movie just utterly blew me away. And like I said, the fight at the end and Vader. Do you know what? I think Vader redeeming himself as a kid didn't, you know, affect me. I mean, I could understand the concepts and consequences of his actions leading up to this point, and then how he redeemed himself, but I didn't care. It didn't really sink in, if that makes sense. But I do remember this overwhelming feeling of sadness that something special had ended, and would we ever get it again? Obviously we know now that we did, but yeah, that was a weird feeling. And then this is where it got really weird, and I have told this story before. But there was a kid at school, so I'm still at primary school at this point, and remember when your birthday party when you were a kid was a big deal? You used to have a whole bunch of people over, you used to send invitations out, you know, it was epic because you got presents off all of them. Your mum would put like a spread of sweets, crisps, fizzy drinks, pop, stuff like that. You'd have a birthday cake, and then sometimes you'd have an outing or event, like you'd either go to the local swimming bath or stuff like that. Yeah, swimming when you were my age as a kid was a treat and not a chore or exercise, especially when they had the inflatables. Yeah, or you go to the cinema and stuff like that. And I remember we got invitations, and it must have cost them a fortune, because I think there's about 25 kids there, and this is obviously 1983, and they took everyone to see Return of the Jedi. And I remember myself and my twin brother Ian were really disappointed. I mean, as an adult, I'd be like, I should have fucking, what? You get to see it on the big screen. But no, we were disappointed because we had came to live and piss out of this movie a week or a couple of weeks before this. And so we knew it inside and out. I do remember that when everyone was pissing themselves at Salacious Crumb in it, we were just like, we didn't want to be left out, so we were just kind of like, ha ha ha. Ha, ha, ha. But we were fake laughing. But yeah, we were good. We wanted to see something else. I can't remember what other movies were out in 1983, but I do remember when we were lining up, because line-ups back then was huge, even though it was way beyond opening day or opening weekend or whatever. But yeah, that's my experience of seeing the original Star Wars trilogy. Yeah, I only saw one in the cinema, but because I'm of an age where I'm near enough to the release of the original in the cinema, to some degree, I think, I feel like I'm a person of that, you know, time set of those movies. So I mean, even though I saw the first two, all of them technically at home, they all have unique and amazing, nostalgic, warm, fuzzy memories and attachments to for different reasons. But not having seen them in the cinema didn't diminish from that. They still, you know, it was still a wonderful experience. I do remember, and it's weird because God, it'll be 40 years next year for Star Wars, and I remember the 20th anniversary. 20's not even an anniversary for me to a movie now. It's got to be at least 30. When they did that re-release in the cinema, and it was all the new special effects that Lucas added in. At the time we were super excited for seeing, but now, with the exception of Wampa for Empire, we realise we're a bucket full of shit. But I was absolutely blown away because I got to, you know, rectify missing the first two movies in the cinema. So I pre-ordered the movies, all three tickets, sorry, from the Odeon in advance, and yeah, that was absolutely fantastic. And it was brilliant because, do you remember the commercials for it when they said for a whole generation the only way to see Star Wars has been like this, and it's on an X-wing on a little TV. It goes, but now for its 20th anniversary you can see it like that and the TV blows up. I've always loved that commercial. But so yeah, so I got to rectify, you know, missing out in the cinema, but there's no denying the process. I wouldn't change it for the world on how I saw, you know, the original trilogy, each subsequent movie for the first time. And it's interesting, as I said, for movies as big and as popular as this, because of when people are at different ages and stuff like that, it is always really interesting, and that's why I've asked this question. I would love to know what you know your memories are. But it's really interesting to see how each individual saw it and when they saw it, you know, and where they saw it for the first time. And everyone's going to have a different story, and stuff like that I just really like, you know, particularly on something that bridges us and binds us all together. No pun intended. Something like Star Wars. Anyway, yeah, sorry, kind of a long waffle this one. Got a little bit away from me. But yeah, I'd love to know, you know, your thoughts and your memories of when you saw the original Star Wars trilogy. Anyway, thank you. Why am I looking at the viewfinder? Thank you very much for watching. I'll see you later.